Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for an exciting chat with Barry this week.
Exciting, enjoy
about this subject, and we were just saying before we came on air that it's the title of the show is Navigating Our Political Differences, but what I say is, besides the primary relationship, which is the one we have with ourselves, everybody else that we come in contact with, we're in relationship with, whether it's for 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 5 years, your lifetime, your family, your friends, your intimate partner, whoever it is, you're having a relationship with them. And as everybody is aware, I'm sure there may be a few people out there, but as most people know, we've just been through a very challenging political presidential election this last week. And it's brought up a lot for a lot of people. And I know that certainly a few of my clients are feeling some very strong feelings about this. Some of it is affecting their relationships, and I'm sure Barry has exactly the same experience with his groups that he works with.
Yep.
What I wanted to say, in the past, there were some pretty famous political couples like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver and James Carville and his wife, Mary Matalin. They could literally, their marriages survived a long time with these political differences. But I would have to say the climate right now is more polarized than it's ever been in the past, and it is challenging for people. I know a couple after 7 years that broke up over this because the woman in the relationship had 2 daughters. She felt very, very strongly about her daughter's rights, and her partner of 7 years didn't. And so she felt that was an area where they couldn't negotiate any further. They tried and tried and tried, and they ended it, and it was heartbreaking. But they realized that there was just too much of a difference there. She felt torn between respecting her daughters, as she viewed it, right to their own bodies, their own choices, and he didn't feel the same. And so it was a glaring difference for them. And then I also know within my own family, I come from the UK, so all my family's there, but they are conservatives, which is the equivalent to a Republican here. And how to navigate that when I was home. Thankfully, I don't have to live there all the time. But so that's definitely, and again, Barry and I were just talking about yard signs. I noticed less yard signs this year than ever before. People were wary of putting their beliefs out there for fear of the kickback, the verbal assaults that could occur from it. It's very, very different. So those are some of my beginning feelings about this subject. So Barry, jump in here. What do you know?
I have some strong feelings myself. Starting with the yard signs, I did see quite a lot of yard signs where I live, but they're all for city council or for local stuff. Nothing national. It's all just which frankly is a little bit safer, but also maybe more relevant because it's the local impact on the council for the local town sort of thing. So that was one thing. But speaking where I come from, also from England, perhaps forever, coming from a very working class family, my father worked in the production line at Fords. So I had that inbuilt socialist type mentality in the way I was raised. So even though when I come to American, people think I sound posh because I'm English, I'm very much working class. So there's one thing that's in my DNA. And so my political views are tending to stay that way. So yes, I am leaning more Democrat, just to be transparent. So I guess we're wondering. And the biggest challenge I face, I think I've been noticing in conversations, and particularly, the vitriol on social media, because it's funny. It's easier for people to post on social media their righteousness, their indignation, their opposing views than they would if they're in person, face to face, which is another point entirely we'll get to. But what I've noticed is there's very little room for negotiation, for conversation, or for meeting in the middle. I wrote an article last month for a blog that I'm part of about how to get beyond right and wrong. And the challenge is that we are sitting in I'm right, you're wrong, or the opposing view. And so we have this thing where there's no middle ground, which is what the challenges are. A lot of people socially, not necessarily in romantic relationship, probably, but it could be there too, where one partner feels that they're right and the other person thinks they're right, and there's no middle ground, so to speak. So we definitely want to unpack this.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting you should say that because I definitely I consider myself I am center to the left or left to the center, however you want to say it.
Right.
That's where I stand. I have some, I live in a very small community, and a lot. We all know each other. Our children all went to the same preschools, middle schools, high schools. We know each other very well. I have friends that are Republicans, and I've never had an issue with them. We've agreed never to talk about politics. It doesn't. It's neither. It just wasn't. Well, I mean, we could mention things, but if it started getting into arguing our positions, we agree to disagree and
Right.
just leave it at that. But I do have to say that there have been times this last few years since there seems to have been, and I'll say on both sides, extremism. And
Hmm.
I consider, I do consider that the MAGA movement, from my perspective, is the extreme of the right. And I also think there's an extreme on the left too. So, reason I'm saying that is I have had to, when I've seen people become extreme, especially on the right, I've had to limit my time with these people, to
Right.
appreciate what we had together, to not try and force a square peg in a round hole, and to literally just accept that we've gone our separate ways on some issues that are so important to me that there is no bridging the gap. There is no agreement to disagree. There's
Yeah.
there's there's been animosity. There's been things said that I have felt have been so outrageous, or trolling, things like that. I've
Hmm.
also noticed for my part as a coach, I'll be very transparent here. I have usually kept my political views very much under wraps because,
Yes.
again, I have wanted to be there for everybody.
Hmm.
But I have also, in the last couple of years, really, really sort of made a decision that it's okay that I reveal what side I stand on. And if it means that a few people will walk away from me and not want me to be their coach, then that's okay
Yeah.
because it is a relationship. And I do believe in transparency in relationships. And I would sit in silence and suffer sort of, some extreme comments being made about people that I respect and admire in politics. That I just felt disingenuous. I felt like, I'm sitting here just sort of, not that I wanted to convince them or change their minds, but it was bordering on offensive, and I felt like I did get a sense that they actually knew where I stood on this rather, and that there was a little bit of provocation. And I thought, let's just be transparent here. I don't see it the way you see it. We can either put it aside and not have that be part of our coaching sessions, or if it's something you do want to bring into the coaching session, um, you might want to choose somebody else because I don't really want to spend my time as a coach being trying to have somebody convince me to see their point of view on this. It's not what
Yeah.
I'm here to do. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
so
No,
I
in both. So after you finish
no,
up.
no, you go.
Well, I'm in the same boat, definitely. And in fact, because I send an email out to my audience every Friday morning, and I put as a little paragraph at the bottom of my email, just saying like, if you're feeling upset, hurt, wounded after the recent election, if you want to talk, just reach out to me. And I didn't say if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican. I
Mhm.
thought if you're upset by it, because one of my passions is supporting people being less upset and more at peace and more centered. And so the challenge is, and I agree with you absolutely, that one of the best moves can be to walk away from places, because I've seen, again, like social media posts I've been watching. part of me wanted to get in there and like roll my sleeves up and start debating. And I realized the futility of the energy of that. That for
Mhm.
my own self-preservation, my own peace of mind, my own calmness, you better just to walk away from that. And just to be transparent, one of the things I love about Facebook, one of the few things is is that when you see a post that you really get triggered by or upset by, and you don't need to want to deal with it. And of course, I do talk about working with your triggers, but I know there's a thing called a snooze option, meaning you can snooze a person for 30 days. And so some of the people who are putting a lot of vitriol, at least the way I perceive it, let me be clear, my perception of it is vitriolic. That rather than unfriending them or arguing with them, I just snooze them for 30 days.
Mm.
And that gives me a sense of when I see the post pop up again in a month, I may feel differently. But it's something as simple as that. Now, of course, we do that in real life, it'd be even better.
Oh, no, we're all
Now,
born with snooze button.
but the idea of because the thing is, what you talked about is about where you can find a way of conversing with people, not getting into politics. It's almost like because I sense some ways for some people, the passion, the upset, whatever, all the different feelings about the election will probably dissipate a little bit in 30 days or 60 days from now.
Yes.
So if we can get back to that space again, where we can simply talk about life, about love, about experiences, about all these other things, without putting the political stage front and center, we can all get along again. But the challenge is, yes, some people are so attached to their victor, victim, whatever position they want to be in, that they'll wear it like a badge. And so it gets in the way of having any sense of connection, communication, and intimacy.
Yeah.
So how we deal with it is important what we bring to the conversations we have.
Yeah. Well, I'm always under the, I did post a couple of things, and I think one said no words, but there was a broken heart, and
Mhm.
the other one was that I was sad that this wasn't the America I had fallen in love with 40 plus years ago. Um, but I didn't. But what I was going to say is I didn't. I felt that I was letting my position be known without being offensive. And what I take issue with is the trolls that deliberately that are not even friends of mine. I don't know who they are, but they choose to
Yeah,
take and then I'm sure it's a cut and paste, a massive whole thing about how ignorant and stupid I am and how I need to educate myself and things like that. That to me that's when it's crossed the line into offensive. I think we can all share our view without demeaning another human being.
yeah,
And again, as I said, it was something that came to me again. I used to be try and sort of stay on that fence, and then I just there was a couple of, as I say, a couple of comments that were just so offensive. I mean, I will share one was like, girls should just keep their legs crossed if they, the economy is more important, girls should just keep their legs crossed.
yeah,
I am sorry, but when people have been raped, sexually abused, and there's so much more to this issue about a woman and the right to her body than
yeah.
just an abortion being about contraception. And it to me it just spoke to a level of ignorance that I just don't want to engage with. So I didn't say
No,
anything. I just I didn't know about the snooze button, but I didn't
I,
even I
yes,
just knew that I wasn't even going to bother reading that. I'd skim over. My whole thing is to skim over. You don't need to engage. As you said earlier, our energy is so um, precious, and
hmm
how we share it, and the way in which we share it, is something that's very important. And I think we can really take a step back there and just say, do we want to preserve our protect our energy and who we surround ourselves with, and also do we want to unnecessarily get into an argument with somebody that's not interested in hearing our perspective? It's like, save your energy. Just save your energy.
it's
Yes.
absolutely that's the thing. And the thing is that there are people who live for the battle. They live for the argument. It's almost like that. What gets like the excitement of that gives them the juice that makes them feel alive. Whereas if you like us suggest that you step back and be more at peace. I mean, I posted social on Facebook that day. I said, I think the first thing I posted was like, breathe, this too shall pass. Like, just like, be with the energy, but not jump in.
Mhm.
But some people look at that and say, well, that's just avoidance. That's not dealing with things. So it's like the thing about it is really this way, is with social media, especially, is you can be damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Mhm.
So the key question is, as we said at the top, and you said it as well, is the most important relationship is one you have with yourself. How do you want to be in that relationship with yourself? And do you want to be enmeshed in debate, argument, disappointment, upset, frustration, separation, all different things? Or do you want to be kind, compassionate, caring for yourself, forget anybody else?
Mhm.
And what does that require you to do to take care of yourself? Does it require you to to keep yourself out of conversations or out of places where you know it won't serve you? And that's the thing. This is one of the best things about this work is when you become self-aware, you notice that before it happens. You can say, you know what, I'm going to walk away from this.
Yeah.
And you do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had a couple of encounters recently. One was on Halloween. My book club and I, we all went as Handmaid's Tales with the word vote on the front. And we got so many people that were so touched and wanted to take our pictures. And it was an amazing feeling. And then there was one one person there who was at
Bumper.
this parade who dressed up as Trump.
Hmm.
So in my mind is we give that person a wide berth. We don't need, certainly on Halloween, we do not need to come to battle over anything. Ours was a silent protest or whatever, or get out the vote comment, whatever it was. And so is this woman's, but one of my group sort of thinks, because the woman was quite vocal and aggressive. So one of my friends who happens to be French decided she wanted to debate her, and we're all going, no, just like, come on, I'm walking like, oh, I don't, she does not want to see it from our perspective. So that was interesting. And then another time was I do a couple of workouts on the beach here, and there was a new person in the group, new to me anyway, because I had been away for a little while after my injury, and I went back, and there was a very aggressive um, commentary. And I said, can we agree to disagree here? We're in the most gorgeous environment on a beach, 8:30 in the morning, exercising, witnessing dolphins, swimming past in the ocean. There's so much beauty here. Why can we focus on that? And it took a couple of, I think, three times me having to say exactly the same thing. I didn't debate her. I just kept bringing it back to the present moment and to soak in the beauty. And there was an apology the next time I saw her. She said, I don't normally go off like that. And I apologized. I said, that's absolutely fine. And this was a while back. And there are things that I really like about her. I really do. And so there is no reason why we can't continue to, socialize, be in this class, have a good time together, have great other conversations, if we both decide that this is just something we see differently, and to just
Yeah.
leave it there. We don't have to have people, and I think that's something, that's another topic. It almost is. Some people just need to be seen and heard to the point where it becomes aggressive, as
Mhm.
opposed to, it's okay if somebody doesn't see the world that you see it, the way you see it. We don't have to have everybody hear us and see us and get us. It's okay. So,
It is.
so
Yeah.
these
I guess the thing I'll say, and I absolutely loved what you said about that. I mean, this is actually probably teaching for just beyond the idea of politics is the idea about being in environments like being on the beach with the dolphins and the beauty of the world and that sort of thing. Like I hike every morning, and I can see the Hollywood sign today because because the winds have been blowing through and cleared the air out, so you can see that far. And there's so much that can be pulled away from that, but just staying true to appreciating how clear the skies were and how beautiful the views were, and seeing the rabbits and and the squirrels running around, sort of thing. It was just one of those things where I just was like, this is what life is really about:
yeah,
is appreciation, enjoyment of being in nature, being in life. And when the opportunity shows up, it's sometimes it seems to be tempting to like get a crayon and crayon over it with politics or upset or personal, whatever it is, personal stuff, all the junk. I think a lesson everybody could take home with them is, can you take time out? Like if you're upset or you're distressed, go outside for a walk, get out to nature, walk barefoot in the grass or on the beach, and just be present in that moment and let everything else go for a minute. Because the challenge oftentimes is, again, when you're around people who are very clearly of a different viewpoint than yours, it can be very challenging sometimes to disengage. And because the other type thing is also, is when the people are actually adamant about wanting to argue and fight, they won't really want you to walk away. They'll keep trying to pull you back in. So some of the hardest work sometimes is simply say, you know what, I'll be back in 10 minutes or in half an hour, or I won't be back, whatever that is, and choose to do things to take care of yourself so that you can feel more centered because ultimately, and we talked about this before on the show, about how with judgments and stuff, how it is self destruction ultimately. And so if we get in a space where we get so upset and stirred up, we're being toxic to our own systems. So a health can be at stake. So doing things that support our health includes sometimes of walking away from conversations that might take us to a place we don't want to be in energetically.
Yeah. And I want to add something to that too, Barry, because I totally agree with you and I love what you're saying. And it doesn't have to just be for a minute, it can be for hours, it can be all
Mhm.
night. But I'm thinking about my brother, and who is, in my view, an ex- he's, I mean, he's in the UK, so, but he's extreme to the right.
Mhm.
And I love him, and I think he's got fabulous qualities. And this is an area where we completely disagree.
Oh, yes.
But I also know, he is on the spectrum. He knows he is. He's been diagnosed. He's a genius. He's an absolute genius, and I know that he's not interested in my viewpoint. He's interested in his own viewpoint, and he's
Mm.
interested in sharing his own viewpoint all the time. So I sit back and I think, there's no point in me either saying, let's agree to disagree. I
Right.
just give him the space to say what he wants to say, knowing that this is just one aspect of him that I don't agree with him on, but I love so much about him. And I also know that he's not interested in my perspective.
Mhm.
So why would I waste my energy? And as you said, get myself in a negative state to try and, have him see me. So I just give him the floor. So he
Mhm.
hasn't a clue where I stand politically, because I
Right.
don't want to share it with him, because I know that he's not receptive to it, and I don't want it to interfere in our relationship. I can compartmentalize and go, well, that belongs there, and that's just the way that is, and I can focus on, just as we focus on the beauty of nature and what a beautiful, fabulous country we live in. Um, then I can focus on that and just let him have his peace. And the other one is to be curious. Why not listen? So many of us are preparing our
Oh,
counter
yeah.
arguments. We're not even hearing the other person. Be
Mhm.
curious about why they think the way they think. Genuine curiosity doesn't
Right.
mean that you then take that and dismantle it and prove them wrong. It just is. It allows for more space for either person to be curious, to learn more about each other. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but you'll certainly learn more if you stop, get out of that defensive position and be more curious.
Absolutely. Something you said that I want to take out into another context, which you said about with your brother. When so out in life, you meet people in the street, whatever it is. When someone decides to take a position that they want to prove themselves to you, one of the key things that you said that I want to use in this context is if you really want to just get clear, is ask them, do you want to tell me what you're thinking, or do you want to hear my perspective at some point? Because if you don't want to hear my perspective, I don't need to be here. I mean, it can be that blunt. It's almost like it can deflate them, not intentionally to do it as a weapon, but to say it's like, some people are looking just to be a billboard. They don't want to receive anything. They just want to be out there, just being out and putting out their voice. That's not a conversation. That's a monologue. And
Yeah,
if you
no,
want to look, you can watch someone on YouTube do that.
yeah,
So the thing is that your viewpoint is you can simply ask, it's like, do you want to have a conversation? In which case, do you want to listen to my side of the conversation or my perspective, whatever you want to call that? And if they say yes, great. If they don't listen, if they don't say yes or they just say no, you have a choice. And again,
exactly.
okay, it
That's
comes.
it. That- It's a choice. It doesn't mean, it's like when you say to your children, my children will call me sometimes now. I'll say, "Are you calling me as a sounding board? You just need to let off steam and have your feelings be heard, or are you asking me for like advice as well?" And we've done that since they were tiny, and they are so clear. I just need to vent. I mean, my son will call me, goes, "Mum, this is a venting," and I'll say, "Great, vent, come on, let's hear it."
Right.
And
Yeah.
I know it's live it up. I am not a mum right now with advice, only if asked. There is one other thing I do want to hit on that came up in a coaching session this week with me that I wanted to mention in this capacity. And it was one young woman I was talking to who had been advised, in dating, not to ask uh, the person they were on dates with how they felt politically. And I
Mhm.
was curious. I said, I'm curious. What why wouldn't you want to know where they stand on issues? What is stopping you? And she was basically like, well, I've been told you don't do that. You don't do that on a date. And I thought to myself, how curious that you would, if you do feel that strongly about something, that you would hide that part of yourself during the courtship period. And we had a really good conversation around, you don't have to blow somebody out of the water, but you can have a conversation of curiosity again about, I feel quite strongly about some of these issues. How do you feel about them? I mean, to me, it may not be, dating protocol, um, but I think, be yourself up front. If this matters to you, because she was sharing that they'd been on a few dates this whole thing came up, and she realized that he felt very, very differently to her on this very important issue. And it had me thinking, wouldn't it have been easier if in the beginning you got a better sense of where people's opinions are, their values are, um, and just see if you're more in alignment or not?
Yeah.
And it just brought up a really sort of the curious thing about, when we start dating another person, that we follow these made up rules as how we play it, which I think is going to be our next show. It's going to be, are we auditioning or dating?
I like it. No, but just on that point, on the dating apps, and I've had conversation with clients about this too, is there were two camps of positions. One was that, putting a dating profile, your political leanings, or what you don't want to date. I've seen so many women on there saying, if you support Trump, I don't want to date you, sort of thing. It's like that's upfront, that's clear and right before this starts. There's no likelihood of being matched with somebody who's not that.
Yeah.
So that's something I think, and I've had also people say, like same as you were saying, that they've been. I've had clients who've been told, don't bring it up. It's keep it private. Don't talk about it. And I'm personally in the former camp as well. Is that basically the sooner you know the broad strokes of what the other person wants and doesn't want, so you know if they match you or not, is smart. And it's not necessarily about politics, but we're talking, I think, about monogamy, about what if they're a vegan or vegetarian, or if they're a smoker. All these different things are parts of these, and say it, deal breakers.
Yeah.
And politics should be in the same bucket if that's something that's important to you. Now, of course, if you're both apolitical, so be it. But
Mhm.
frankly, that's pretty rare in this country.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm glad that yeah, that's exactly the way I was thinking was, it's not, it wasn't just about politics. It was about all those other things that are, you don't blow somebody out of the water on the first date with being very heavy and aggressive or anything like that. It's not. It's curious again. Light. Hold it lightly. Curious. We're getting to know each other. Is this
Yeah.
is this somebody? And again, I would even say, when you first go out on a date with somebody, to take the sort of date thing off it, like, I'm looking for a life partner. Are you going to fit that mold? I'm interested in widening my friend circle. And are you somebody that I think I could become good friends with? Do we share similar beliefs about, how we should show up in the world? That's all it is. It's very light. It's not heavy. So,
I did.
exactly, yeah. So again, I think it's about, evaluating the relationship. How important is the relationship to you? As I said with my brother, I understand that, as I said, I love him dearly for many other reasons. I will not jeopardize this relationship. Politics is just not important enough for me to end my relationship with my brother. Um, but there are other relationships, that friendships, I should say, that, and thank goodness my partner and I are totally aligned in how we view the world politically.
Mhm.
Um, but there are other friendships where I have seen that there's been a separation, and again with love. No, it doesn't have to be with anger. It doesn't have to be with name calling. It can be with anything. It's just like, oh, I think we've veered too far off the same path together. It's been wonderful for the last 25 years, whatever. But for right now, we're just, maybe we spend a little less time together, which is the beauty of a friendship as opposed to a relationship. The relationship, your intimate partner, if you find out that you are so, as I said, this one friend of mine who after 7 years ended her relationship, that was really quite sad. But they tried everything they could, and they just, there was just this massive thing that they couldn't get over.
Right.
But so that is this week's show. Any last
Fine.
words?
I think we covered it. I mean, there's so much to talk about, and I just invite anybody who's got any questions about this if they want to reach out to us to do so, because this topic may have stirred up things with people if they weren't already stirred up. But
Yeah.
hopefully, it's given food for thought.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Barry. Love our weekly chats.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.